Just a few hours ago, the HHS released its own report on the pediatric medical treatment of gender dysphoria, essentially releasing its own anti-trans, highly political case review. And my God, does this report want to harm trans youth in the US. It ends up recommending exploratory therapy, which is just their rebrand of conversion therapy, which is considered torture according to UN experts. And they know that it is conversion therapy because they have an entire section dedicated to them trying to defend themselves that it is not conversion therapy, while describing what exploratory therapy is as conversion therapy. But not only that, they try to misconstrue the evidence. They omit massive amounts of information. They cherry pick studies as is evidenced in their sources where they explain why they've chosen certain paths, and they put emphasis on other studies while even ignoring the researchers' conclusions. One of the main studies that is quoted in this 400-page report is the Swedish study, which Erin Reed has debunked already 2 years ago. A Swedish study by Dr. Desnay, who the researcher herself has said that the conclusions that people make of her studies are completely false, because her study studied the outcome of people who underwent gender reassignment surgery between 1973 and 2003, when gender affirming care was virtually non-existent. So her conclusions were that the outcomes of trans people during that time are not reflective of what gender affirming care can do in the treatment of gender dysphoria for some trans people. But the research purposefully omits this part and tries to represent it as some gotcha. What's absolutely vile is also what they've done with the conclusions of outcomes, because they purposely assume that anything that happens to us trans people is a direct result of the treatment that we do get, ignoring completely the social aspects, the social stigma, the financial aspects where trans people are very likely to be unhoused or live in poverty, or the fact that gender affirming care is very often inaccessible to a lot of trans people, or that a lot of Black trans women, for example, are killed for simply being trans. But they don't take that into account, and they essentially take the fact that our average lifespan that is shorter than the average population is a causation from the care that we get. And throughout the report, they keep using and quoting studies that are outdated or completely ignoring the actual conclusions of those studies by the researchers and the experts who've studied those. But this will be used by Brainworm Bob, by RFK Jr. to justify taking away proper gender affirming care from trans youth who sorely need it, causing the death of trans kids in the process, which he knows and the people at the HHS know, but they don't care. Those choices will be taken away and these children will be left without any choice. Or will start going through the DIY route, which is a lot more dangerous because you are not then being followed by medical experts who can check your hormone levels, check your blood work, and make sure that you are doing it properly. But the cruelty is the point, and this report only serves to further marginalize trans people and affect the most vulnerable in our community, which is trans youth. And many parents of trans children in the US will then face the fact that their children are going to be suffering because they won't be able to get access to the proper care. And some unfortunate parents will see their kids take their own lives and not make it to adulthood. This is the point that RFK Jr. is doing here. Blood will be on his hands and on the hands of everyone who supports this, including doctors who will refuse to treat trans youth patients out of fear of retaliation from RFK Jr. and the Trump administration. But what I do want to say to trans kids out there and to the parents of trans kids, it is not without hope. Some hospitals and some doctors, like the doctor in New York, who has said that they will fight to keep giving you your care. It'll come down to individuals and to community to fill the gap that the HHS is going to create in terms of care for trans youth. And I would keep an eye out for the ACLU and Lambda Legal, who have so far won a lot of their cases. So to trans kids and to parents of trans children, don't despair, there is hope. But to RFK Jr., thank you.